What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Bragg, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, then this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a young, and I use that word, kind of young guy, young assistant coach with a wealth of experience, a former high school coach who was very successful, a bright basketball mind, an excellent talent evaluator, a tremendous teacher, a future head coach in this business in my eyes. And I'm not just talking about on the high school level again, I'm talking about on the collegiate level. And he's a Washington, D.C. native, Matt Miller. Now, I'm going to talk about Matt a little bit from his resume standpoint before we bring him on. I'm going to make sure, I don't usually talk about high school, but he's a Gonzaga College high school graduate, so he's a WCAC guy. I think I was coached against him, really, to be honest, back when he was playing in those days when I was at Oxon Hill. Then he graduates. He plays 3 years at St. Mary's College, where in his fourth year, unfortunately, had an injury that did not let him play his last year, and he ended up becoming a student assistant. So he probably already had mapped out what he wanted to do in his career. Student assistant at his alma mater, and then after that, he lands a assistant coaching job at Walt Whitman High School in Montgomery County, Maryland, and then he becomes an assistant at Marymount University at college level, Division III, as an assistant coach for 1 year. And then he gets a head high school job at Wheaton High School back over in Montgomery County, 2007, 2008. And he becomes a head high school coach at Churchill High School from 2008 to 2013, where he did a tremendous job there. And then he goes back into college, and so he's at Shepherd University and spent 1 year there. Probably was less than a year, but he was there for a year and then becomes the head coach at St. Maria Goretti, head coach there for 4 years, where he did another terrific job. And then he goes with an old teammate of his, a friend for a long time, as an assistant coach at Mount St. Mary's, where they presently just ended up winning the Northeast Conference Championship and having a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. Man, I want to welcome to the show a guy, Matt, I've been known for a long time. I've watched him from afar. He's a tremendous coach, on any level. That's what I think. So, Matt, man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lamar. I appreciate you calling me young too. I'll be 38 this month, and I think I was young when I used to watch you coach at AU. I was back in Springfield.
I remember those days. Come over, yeah, I remember those days. So, and it's just interesting how, I always knew you're, very good basketball mind. You've always been around. Somehow you've always been around. So it's just when I was like, man, you want to get great basketball people or great basketball minds on your show. You definitely was one of the guys I wanted to. But look, man, Matt, we're going to get right into it, man. We'll get unmasked. And the first question I love to ask on the show is, there's no handbook to being a college coach. Tell me about your first day, week, month, after things are done with human resources or orientation, especially when no one gives you direction. Now, you were, whether you were, when you were at Marymount, or whether it's when you first went to Shepherd, or even if you went to Mount, talk about that, because it's been at different levels, but talk about what it was like. No one gives you direction in this business.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you have a million questions, but then it's in your mind, you're like, if I don't try to figure this out, I'm going to piss everybody off. So you just kind of have to pick people's brain and then just go do it. And you gotta make mistakes. And then, sometimes you just read off my resume. By the time you figure it out, you might be at a new job. So you're constantly having to figure things out. And I think, some of the great people that I work for, like Scott McClary at Marymount, for example, he told me, he was like, look, I'm going to give you so much responsibility that you're going to be ready to be a head coach. And he wasn't lying. He had no problem giving us a lot. And I think it's all, when you're young, it's to your benefit. And, you go to D2, I'm working at Shepherd. And they're like, all right, well, you got the scouts. I'm like, so every scout? Yes, every scout. You know, and so do we have regions for recruiting? No, you got all the recruits. So okay, cool, no problem. You know, so you just kind of have to, put your head down and get to work.
So true, man. I like because that's the biggest thing you said. It. He was like, man, you just got to figure it out, and that's what every coach tell you. Like, you do want to ask questions, but you don't want to be like, dang, if I keep asking all these questions, he gonna think I don't know anything. So you know what? You just figure it out on your own. You create your own niche in this business anyway. So like it's not hard to figure out, but you just don't get a direction, and it might take a little longer than some people, but you'll figure it out eventually. So, recruiting. We all know that that's the lifeline of college athletics. You got to get really good players. You got to get really good, people, and also you got to get good students. And I don't always mean good students and have to be an A student or have to be a B student. You just got to have students that care about being a student athlete, or who cares about getting that degree, going to class. Like those things are important. And it translates to, you don't have to every minute you worried about where they are. Like you don't have to worry about things on the basketball court as well. Talk about your best and worst recruiting story you may have had over the years.
Man, there's so many. I mean, you think about it, like we've all, maybe you're a better recruiter than me. I've probably struck out on 99% of the guys I've ever looked at. So there are plenty. I mean, I don't know. When I was coaching at Shepherd, for example, I was always trying to, find, like, let me find a guy that we could, get, like, that's a Division I player. How can we figure this out, right? And the D2 and D1 qualifying is a little bit different with the sliding scales. And I had a coach who wouldn't tell me that. I was like, Coach, doesn't he have Division I offers? And he's like, I'm just telling you he's available. I'm just telling you he's available. And he's like, I'm trying to get the information, but does he have these Division I offers? He wouldn't tell me no. But, I guess it wasn't going to work out of those places. But everybody else felt that it was. So no other D2s are touching them, and so kind of got a little insider info. And then 4 years later, the guy scores 1,600 points, makes you look really smart. He's constantly all league and had a great career. And so, I mean, those are the best, and you can find a way, and it's being the right fit for the kid. And that's the best part about it. It's not like, hey, I got to this school, I produced at this school, and it felt great. I mean, that's just everybody's happy, family's happy, program's happy. I'll tell you what, though, we get to the Mount, we're my first year, we're looking for a niche position, a stretch four. I think you guys took all the stretch fours at Hofstra, so we couldn't find any. And and so we're just like, dying, we need one. And we need a little bit more shooting. And so we take a chance. A kid comes up and plays open gym with us, and he's killing it. I mean, he's out there. He played with our guys, and I think he was after a season, so we worked him out. He looked good, and we're like, all right, we're gonna bring him. All right, we're gonna give it a shot. We're like, man, this kid is athletic. He shoots it. We bring him up, and all of a sudden he can't. He's like, I can't make it to campus. Like, I can come second session of summer. Like, all right. Shows up, we got to go recruiting. We're like, hey, we'll see you after the weekend. And then we get a message while we're out of town. We're like, hey, Coach, I was I was sick. I couldn't make it to come meet with you guys. I had some bad shrimp. I'm like, Emmitsburg, Maryland, I don't even know where you get shrimp. So I'm like, look, come meet with us right now. And he's like, oh, Coach, I'm sorry, I lied. I'm actually in Florida. I'm like, dude, you just got to campus 3 days ago. What? And that was kind of the end of that one. But look good, talked a good game, could play, athletic, very intelligent, but it just didn't have, as you said, didn't quite have that character piece that you're looking for, the reliability aspect. And I think, like, there's something to it when you're saying, you don't need the most intelligent guy, the hardest worker in the classroom, but you got to be one or the other. You got to be pretty intelligent and take care of your business. Or you got to be a hard worker, or but more importantly, if you're reliable, then you can have great memories and great stories, and all conference kids that overachieve and, those are the fun ones to talk about. I mean, I could talk about our Mount guys or our Goretti guys all day about some of the ones that have done tremendous jobs. But yeah, no, that one we're going to laugh about, especially because we won this past year. It makes it a little bit easier to swallow the negative story.
No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Wow, he back in Florida. No, Coach, I lied. I'm in Florida. Wow, that's interesting. We'll talk about this sacrifice. That's a huge word in the profession because I don't think people understand like how much time, how much you invest, how much you're away from family, your friends. Like you're working, now this was pre-pandemic, so hopefully things change, but you're talking about, 12, 15, 16, 17-hour days. You might work 355, 360 days out the year. When you go on vacation, are you really on vacation? Because you always want to call that kid to be like making sure he come to campus, when you get back. But like, what did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success?
I think the biggest thing is you gotta be comfortable that nights and weekends and holidays are not your nights, weekends, and holidays. As soon as you get comfortable, like, hey, we're watching TV, but I can text and watch TV, or I can knock out a little bit of scout while I do that. That you're always. I think just the productivity aspect is you're always being productive. Now, I just took a honeymoon about a week ago, and I didn't do too much. So that was my first time, I think, in the last 3 years where I've kind of put things to the side. We already had our class coming in, so I was allowed to. But I think you kind of have to be comfortable with, you have to make time for your family. And I think, with your friends, instead of getting, them getting frustrated with you getting frustrated with them, when you have time with people, you enjoy it because it's not always given. It's not always possible because you don't have a 9 to 5. You don't have the same set schedule. And I think a lot of it is you got to be comfortable with, hey, you got a lot of relationships, a lot of people, you might be your colleagues, they're your friends, or people that you recruit against. They're you could say they're your colleagues, acquaintances, but they're probably people you're calling about. They're your boys. You enjoy spending time. You guys got similar interests, and you have to adapt to that. You're not always going to be running in the circles that you want to at all times. But if you feel invested in basketball, I mean, like-minded people are gonna find each other, and I think if you have joy in coaching and in recruiting and in those relationships, if you're excited about, hey, my player's he got married, that's awesome, or he just graduated, or he those lifetime milestones. If you're invested in that with your players, those become, they're not just your players, they become, lifetime relationships as well.
So true, man. That's 100% facts. I love the information, the knowledge you're dropping. You talked about scout reports, and unfortunately, I've been through that. Like, I had to do every scouting report for a whole year. Like, and I was at the Division II level at New Haven. You are physically drained by the end of the year because I don't think people understand, like, because when you're done with the scout report, like, it's on to the next, and you got to be ahead because usually you're playing on a Thursday or Saturday, or Wednesday, Saturday. So when you're done with the report on Wednesday, you got to have that report. You get ready to play on Saturday, ready for practice on Thursday. So you always are ahead. So talk about your best and worst scouting reports over the years, because you invest a lot of time in that 7-8 games. You have to make sure that, when you're giving the scout report, the language to the players is important. You don't want to give them too much, because if you give them too much, they're going to tune you out. You got to give them enough. Talk about your best and worst scout reports.
Well, I would say things have changed a little bit. And I talked about Scott McClary from Marymount a while back. We used to dub VHS, right, to VHS. I know you remember that. And then you get everybody's FedEx number, and then you mail it, right? And I mean, it was unbelievable the way. And then you'd have to clip I don't remember how to do that. Clip VHS film and come up with an edit for your team. Now I hit 2 buttons. I'm like, boom, I got every clip on every kid, that we got to play. And you could say, all right, that makes it so much easier. And Scott, he said 5 years from now, it's all going to be digital. I was like, oh, you're full of it. There's no chance. But it was. Everything became digital and clipped up. But however, I think the attention to detail has become so much higher. So if somebody is a lefty driver at an 80% rate, like we know that, but that doesn't come without legwork. If they're a righty driver, if they only shoot in certain spots, if they only rip baseline, I mean, all those things they're easier to find out these days. But I just think the attention to detail is so much higher. So it's it's interesting because you can overcoach, as you said, and I think we kind of ran into that. This year, I'll tell you what, I didn't mind these back to back so much because you would you go lose a game or you win a game or you make your couple adjustments. All right, let's go get it tomorrow. So it may, you just watch that one game. And the difference is when you're a Thursday, Saturday, and it's two different opponents, like you said, you better have the one for Saturday done probably on Sunday or Monday, because you're going to have to practice some on Monday for that next Saturday game, because you're playing Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to go to that Thursday opponent. And I think that's kind of how we've divvied it up. We'll have competition, but we'll also try to focus on Saturday's opponent on Monday. Wow. In terms of best and worst scout, here you go. We'll go back to Shepherd. Worst scout. We beat Glenville State. And you might remember this kid. There's a kid, was it Dante Morales? I think he even had like a UNCW or UNC Greensboro offer. Ended up, I think he transferred out of there to go D2 to Glenville State. And I'm at Shepherd, and we beat them the first time. We pressed them, looked great. The second time, they're running that European ball screen action. And I'm like, we covered it fine. We're blitzing, we're trapping ball screens, we're getting them out of it, turning them over. The second time, head coach is yelling at me. He's like, is Morales at the 3 or at the 4? And he's just lighting us up. I'm like, what does it matter? We're just trapping it. And I didn't realize he meant, is he playing on the wing, or is he one of the forwards? Is he playing at the 4, lifting, making shots and becoming a mismatch for us? And I think we gave up, good old Division II basketball. I'm a defensive coordinator at the Mount. I had to get comfortable being like, all right, well, we gave up 95 tonight, and being like, that's a good day. I mean, so I think I got chewed out pretty good. Coach Namla got me on that one. I needed a little bit more attention to detail. I would say this year we had with the pandemic. I think I thought I had a great scout against Howard. Then we didn't play him. That got canceled. I thought we had great practice for UMBC. Our practices are great. Our scout was on point. Didn't play him. There are a few more. I think St. Joe's we had just started prepping for. Didn't get to play them. But I would say best in terms of just kind of like memory would be Brian, because we ended up winning in the NEC championship this year, and we drove up there. That's quite the drive, because we couldn't fly this year with the pandemic. So we drove up there. We're doing the night before scout. Things are going well. We're excited. We're about to do the film. They call us, hey, we got a case. Game's canceled. We had to drive right back down from Rhode Island to Maryland. And then we prepared for them a second time. We had it rescheduled. All right, we're ready to go. We need to win one of these games to get in the playoffs. And maybe we worked so hard that we had the Lord on our side or something. But they were, unfortunately, they had more cases. So the day before, those games got wiped out, which gave us an automatic bid to the playoffs. We squeaked them with the 4 seed, and they only led 4 teams in this year. So I think that was probably a pretty good scout.
I would say it was.
yeah, exactly. And then in the finals, I don't know. We just had, I think, third time's a charm. We finally got to play them in the finals, and I think, myself as the defensive coordinator and Coach Holland, Will Holland, our offensive coordinator, we're trying to work together on a plan, with Coach Dan, and how we can attack them without and guard them. I mean, they're scoring at a high level. I think they beat UMass and some other teams this year, pretty high level guys, and they're just scoring at a super high clip, but found a way to go do it on the road. And I don't know, that was just a lot of fun. I don't know if that was more scout or our guys just locked in so much and playing so hard and playing with a lot of grit and emotion, but it felt like they were locked into the details of the scout. And when that comes together, it's a tremendous feeling.
That's the biggest thing, the preparation. Well, you didn't give them too much, so they were locked in. and that was key. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you have become a college coach?
I would say the biggest challenge is just kind of the comfort level. Being a DC guy, I've never moved. The Shepherd only an hour 15 from DC. So even though it's West Virginia, I've coached in Hagerstown. I've been down in Southern Maryland at St. Mary's. So I've been like all over the Maryland area. Coached in Virginia a little bit at Marymount, but I've never, I think just trying to get out of my comfort zone. By this point, I'm like, I get it, but when you're a young coach and you got your friends and family in one location, just understanding that, tomorrow could be different, so you kind of have to take advantage of the time you do have with people, because you could be, heck, you're in DC and then you're down in, ODU, then you're at Hofstra. And I mean, you've been at Brown, you've been all over the place. I think you have to be comfortable with being a little transient. And the timing, if you're not interested in working hard, you're probably not interested in being a college coach. So the work doesn't scare me. I think the biggest adjustment was being comfortable with change, and being comfortable with, on any staff. It's just it's so different. If you're going to change, you could be giving up a good thing to go do something. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable,
That's so true, man. I totally agree with you. And I'm gonna ask you this because you have a personality that a lot of people like you got a bubbly personality. You come in and everybody, like, even if you're recruiting and you make sure you speak to everybody, some people don't even speak, or some people look at the polo just to see what the name is. But you've always been cordial. You've always been cordial. You've always talked. You don't. But I asked this question just because, because you're passionate. People don't know. If they don't know you, they're gonna think one thing. So I asked this to say, do you ever find that there are things about you that people might misunderstand? What are they?
I don't know. I try to be humble in the sense that, I could go way back to when I'm 16 and I'm a nobody. And there's a reason you don't remember who I was at Gonzaga, because I'm a nobody there. I played a lot more in college at Division III. And
I think I was worried about what's my man, the big kid that went to JMU at the time,
all those guys, man. What, Pat Mitchell and
like those
and Billy Gladden and Joey Goodson and
Joey
Steve
Goodson,
Cobb, Martini, all those guys. Those are the players. And so, I don't know. They're always good people to me, like Zach Suber and Hollywood Hollis, Mike McLeese, Butch Cherry, and some good people. If you remember, they were all like UDC, and I used to work out there, and they would let me come in there and work out, and they'd have great guys like Bernard Robinson, James White, Frank, who played at UDC. They were just good people, and they always let me run. So I've always been, when I'm a nobody, people let me play, and I got to learn and try to get better and learn from pretty good coaches, not knowing that I was going to coach in the future. But I don't know. I've always just tried to be humble. I think, sometimes, maybe I don't network and politic as much as I should, and get to know as many people as I need to. I'm competitive. I'm very competitive. And I think, on the sideline, whenever I'm a lot calmer, I think, as an assistant coach. As a head coach, I've always been a little fiery, and the deal when you're in your 20s coaching, one speed. And I think, for kids that know you care, I think that comes off correctly. If they don't know you that well, then it come off like, man, he's a tough guy to play for. But I think a lot of that is if you develop the relationships behind the scenes and in practice and in the classroom and in between classes, like as a high school coach, for example, you're able to coach at a little bit, tougher speed and be a little more demanding, I think. And I think, sometimes people only see on game night, but they don't see all the things behind the scenes that lead to that relationship that allows you to coach tough and really push guys, I would say. And, so my face is getting red. My face always gets red. I'm not mad.
I like that. I like that. And you go back to because I want to say you were PE teacher. Was that was that in Montgomery County Public Schools? And the reason why I use that is so we're all educators in this business. Like that's the one thing. No matter what, as a coach, you're still an educator. We tell our players. We'll tell them like, hey, the basketball court is a classroom. Like, what do you try to educate? Because we're always educating. What do you try to educate or teach your players besides basketball?
I think like I used to use just three simple rules when I was coaching high school ball, since we're talking about teaching. And it was always be on time, work as hard as you can, and just show respect. Because I think there are like three very general things. You got to be on time at your job. You got to be on time to practice. You got to work hard wherever you're at, classroom, at your job, on the court, and respect. That could be referees, that could be your employer, that could be your family, your friends, your opponents. I think, if we got Coach Preet on here, who was at St. James, we had a nice little rivalry in Hagerstown. And the year before, I was recruiting one of his kids to Shepherd. I got AJ Carr, to come from St. James to Shepherd. He scored 1,500 points, had a great career. Then the next year, we're battling against each other, and the two schools don't really like each other. So I think having mutual respect, I think, is important. Because back when I was at Churchill, he would scrimmage me when he was an assistant coach at Montrose. He would schedule us for scrimmages, little old Churchill, and so I just think like, just kids understanding the relationship piece and how that goes down the line, and it permeates for years and years and years. And that goes, I think, to the respect factor. So I always try to teach the kids that, like, we can lose, but let's lose the right way. We can win, let's win the right way. And, I'm watching the NBA playoffs, just like I'm sure you are. And I'm like, man, I just wish these guys would stop complaining about calls. And I mean, the fans got to tighten up too, but our kids are watching that. And I always think it's important for them to do the little things, because those are life skills that translate well beyond whether you continue to coach, whether you continue to play in college, overseas. But it's gonna permeate to them being fathers. It's gonna permeate to them, being young professionals who hopefully have degrees. And I think one of the things I also try to preach is the level of degree. I've had a couple guys when I was at Goretti who were from overseas that may have gone back overseas, and I really tried to sell them like, listen, I want you to really finish your degree before you go. I mean, there's nothing more valuable than that, and I think you get that as an educator. And I think some of that's getting lost these days. People are not they're valuing the where they can transfer to versus what they're getting out of it. And I love seeing when kids use basketball and they don't let basketball use them. When they're transferring and they're losing credits going between schools, and that might make them short of graduating. That's a problem. And I try to, like, that's one thing I try to share with the kids that I coach in high school and now currently in college, just because the culture there is.
And that's awesome to hear. Now, if and I like asking this question now, like, if you had a chance to sit down, because you've worked with some pretty good guys, and probably some guys you've had relationships with as well. But like, if you had a chance to sit down for 3 or 4 hours, grab lunch or dinner with some guys in this profession, like, who would be 3 or 4 guys you would want to sit down, pick their brain? What makes them tick? What makes them successful? Like, who would you like to sit down? And a lot of times I say it could be past or present. Like, who would that be?
Past or present. Okay. And this is just my North Carolina bias here. I'm a big Tar Heel fan. I would love to go sit down with Dean Smith, and their entire staff. I mean, if you could throw, Phil Ford and Steve Robinson and Bill Guthridge and those guys, I would love to just do that. More so as a fan. My grandparents were from Chapel Hill, and that was always important to them and important to me as a kid, is kind of following them. So I would love just to learn more from them. I mean, in today's age, there's too many good coaches out there. I mean, I mean, I just like, I admire watching, Kelvin Sampson out there just coaching up the defense. Like I would love to talk to him. I watched him do a virtual clinic, and they play their defense completely different the way than we do at the Mount. And I think that's how we had some success this year, was our guys defended at a pretty high level. And that's why I want to learn. I think I could go down the line. I mean, you could go. I mean, Mark Few, he's turned a small school into a, just perennial champion. And that's not only just winning, but that's just building a program and morphing, a school into something, a completely different culture. I mean, I think that would always be very interesting to discuss. I mean, I would like to talk to Jay Wright, just seeing how they've had their, their highs, and then they hit a low point. They built it back up through culture. And I think that's a big thing they discuss, but I'm missing so many good ones out there.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Like,
yeah.
You throw it on somebody, like, man, I know I'm gonna miss somebody, but so that is a hard one. That's a hard one. But you named some great ones. Like you said, there are a lot that you missed. And you can't go wrong ever with Coach Smith, trust me. And this is kind of an entertaining question. So you might say, I got to think about this. You don't have to worry about names. You don't have to worry about mentioning. What is the strangest or weirdest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court, where you was just like, did he really do this? I can't believe he's done this.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. There's so many. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I could just start rattling off stories. I think I had one time, and this probably wasn't the most professional thing to do. We had a line of kids that we were about to tell them whether they made the team or not. I had them come in for a little 1-minute meetings. They didn't, I don't think we ever did that again. Apparently they were in line, and the poor guy, he was signaling to the one kid. He said he looked at him. He's just like, gave him you're about to get cut, the little signal. And then he walked in, and he came in with his head down because he just got cut. Karma, right?
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Wow. That's interesting. I know this year, and a lot of times you ask this question, some people get caught up in the wins and losses, and I'm just asking you, what's the biggest accomplishment you think you've experienced since you've been in college coaching?
I mean, I don't think there's anything like. By the way, I'm gonna want to come back to that other question. I'm sure I got better stuff that'll pop in. But I don't know. I don't think there's anything like an NCAA tournament. I think people tell you, yeah, it's great. And then you think like, well, would you rather win a regular season, and then maybe lose in the finals and win the NIT? Like, you think about that, and it's like, I would rather just make the tournament. Whatever happens after that is just, that's icing on the cake. So I mean, we've had a lot of adversity, I would say, over the last few years. It's taken a lot to get to this point. A lot of growing up, a lot of maturity, and there's nothing like that feeling knowing you've gotten there. Obviously you want to take another step and do what you need to do to continue to build, but there's no feeling like that. I mean, it's the same feeling I had like in 05, 06 with actually Antoine White is our new women's coach. He was our point guard at Whitman then. Believe it or not, right? But he helped lead us along with the kid Mike Gruner, who ended up playing at Lafayette, and then now there another one of them was Mikey Fitzpatrick. He's now coaching Montgomery County, but like that feeling is like nothing else. You won the state title, you win, you get to the NCAA tournament, and I think I think in terms of accomplishment, I take more pride knowing that Mikey is a high school coach. Antoine is a head women's coach. One of the kids I got to coach my 1 year at Shepherd, to me, these are accomplishments. I see he's an assistant coach at Shepherd. He just finished his master's degree at Duke. And I'm like, man, this is pretty incredible. And so you just see all the guys that you've coached are now coaching. To me, that's fun. That's more, I would say that's more of an accomplishment. But in terms of just personal gratification and sentiment in that moment, getting to the NCAA tournament or, being able to win a state title, those are just things you can't replicate.
That's awesome that you said that, because you talk about accomplishments. And that tells you how selfless you are, because you talked about the accomplishments of those guys. And that's kind of what the gist of the question is. You do have people to come across like, yeah, you personally, you'd like the NCAA tournament and all that, but like seeing others do well, that's the accomplishment, because that's what it's about. Like that's what, coaching is about. So I thought those were awesome answers. What movie or TV show title best describes your week?
Oh man, what movie or TV show? Wow. I would say I'd say Curb Your Enthusiasm, because sometimes I feel like it's just like that's why I'm having a hard time with the other question, because there's just so many good stories and you're just on to the next one. Like they're all, everything in coaching, it's tied together, and there's so many I would say inside jokes, and the people that you coach with, man, it's just so interconnected that you can't even describe it unless you're in there. You got to do it to understand. And I think that's like Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like a show about nothing. You go, it's just entertainment being there.
Hey, I became a huge Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I became a Seinfeld fan years ago, but during the pandemic to watch Larry David, that was tremendous just to watch that. So I totally agree with you. That's actually a great show.
And then I bring up this is one of the ways I connect with the guys. They all love Power. So I'm like, I'm watching Power. So I had to find a way to get a Stars app. And then we just talk about it. And then they say I look like Tommy and all that good stuff,
Wow, I like that. I like that. What's your favorite word or phrase you like to use?
Apparently, so when I was at Goretti, they always do shirts for our Thanksgiving tournament. And they put a phrase or something on the back. Apparently, I say, "Hey, buddy," a lot. I didn't realize it until I put it on a shirt, and I was like, "Why'd we do that?"
I like that. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
That sounds like a Glenn Farrello that used to do that all the time. By the way, hey, buddy. I just remember that for some reason. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice I've ever been given. I would say burn the film. When you become obsessive, there's always a game every year, and I think this goes to life. There's going to be a day in the office or just like a day with your family where you can't hold it against them. You can't judge them. Everybody should get a pass. Like your players, give them a pass. Burn the film. What the heck are we getting out of that? And I think I remember every year one of my mentors, Marty Lewis, his son played for us at Churchill, and he would, we go get dinner or something after the game and chop it up. And if the other parents found out we were getting dinner, I'd have probably been fired. But we're we're getting dinner talking. He's like, just burn the film. I'm like, what do you mean? There's so much we got to get better on.
I like that. Burn the film. Yeah. What does success mean to you?
I would say happiness. I don't want to say comfort, because I think a lot of coaching is being comfortable, being uncomfortable, like we talked about. But I would say, loving what you do. I talked to somebody about this who was on your show. I had to ask him a couple pointers, but I think the biggest thing is being happy. And I expressed to him, I said, if the good Lord said, college coaching wasn't in my future, I would be comfortable being a high school coach. I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable teaching. Like I'm not I'm not, I'm humble enough where I'm willing to coach Division 1, 2, 3, high school. It's, I don't really want to go much lower than that. I don't know if I could do the middle school. I'll do that during the summer at camp or something. But um, I think success is what you make it. And I think it's you being happy and impacting in coaching, I would say impacting young people positively. And just the byproduct sometimes of winning, you're able to do that more. And I think I cited 3 players' names from 2005-06. And I don't love them because we won, but it makes it a lot easier to love each other when you did have success together. Like our team at the Mount this year, we're going to be connected for life. Not that we shouldn't be as connected to other groups. It just makes it that much easier and memorable. And I think the kids remember that, lean on you more. And so I think winning does help you be able to breathe that. And it's a byproduct, I think. But yeah, I think just being happy with what you're doing.
That's so true, man. I, I believe that 100%. You're not and I like to say this. You're not a self promoter. And you used one of the words earlier, which was humble. But if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
I'd say hardworking, dedicated, and I mean, I'll just say because my players would probably say, be like, "Oh man, you know how the kids said he's crazy, man." I'll just say crazy. So we all got to screw loose if we're doing this 24/7. It's there's a lot to life, but I think as coaches we find a lot of value in it, and you have to be crazy, not necessarily in a bad way, in a good way, to be able to do this.
I like that. No, that's interesting you say that because everyone, when you think crazy, everyone always assumes bad, but no, it's not. And I actually like that answer. I might have to use that one myself, honestly. Um, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
um, I'll tell you, I would say my father. He is he's a very very quiet man. He's got a PhD in oceanography. He works in global climate change. He just recently retired. So that NOAA building downtown Silver Spring, that used to be his hub. And then we lived right over there in Northwest DC. And but you know, he was one of those guys. He put his head down, went to work, and I think he's had a life mission to impact the world by trying to reduce carbon emissions. But he doesn't throw it in people's face. Some people don't buy the science. Some people do, and but he's made it his mission to do that. But again, was never a self promoter. And I think he always supported me. If I was struggling in class, he would help me. If let's say I wasn't up to par when I'm trying out for a certain team. Heck, he was willing to drive me out to go play for the I played for the Bowie Panthers for I think a year or two. And so he would always take me all the way out there. He'd bring his newspaper, and he had no problem doing that. And I don't think he ever, really asked for anything in return except for, just spending time with me. And I think that alone just kind of showed me like, hey, you got to be dedicated to your people, help them out. And I think through that, I really appreciate them. I mean, just little things, making sure that it could have been, driving me off at Silver Spring Metro to get to Gonzaga. So I go downtown, and be able to go to a prestigious high school for 3 years. And, I would say in that sense, I think he's impacted, my career and my path as much as he can, even though he's never coached or really been in that field.
Oh, I love it, man. And like you said, he wasn't in that field, but still you learn so much from him, from what he did. He just said, hey, he put his head down. I mean, he worked. So like that, that's huge. Well, I mean, well, maybe this answer might come out of this. Like, what energizes you and brings you excitement? Because you are an energetic, positive guy. Like, what energizes you and brings you excitement?
Ooh, I would say, and that's when it comes to recruiting, you were talking about the type of kids you recruit. when they have energy, I have even more, and I can find a way to get it out of them. But when we have, energetic kids in the gym, I'm ready to go. I'm one of those guys, you might as well just like slap the ground, go camp style. I love defense, so I've always kind of taken a knack to coaching defense, and I love doing player development as well. But I think that gets me fired up when we're getting stops and we're getting, the guys that Xavier would say, getting kills, getting 3 stops in a row, or, nowadays it's so analytical. You're holding teams under 1 point per possession. That's, I love sharing that with the team. So I love seeing success on the defensive side, but I think the success it breeds through energy and being locked in. And so, I mean, like that gets me fired up, and we clip all of our practices, all of our games, and the next day it's right there. So the kids can come in and I can go through 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes it's 7 or 8 minutes of clips we got to review. But like that gets me energized, because I think, when they're showing that they're dedicated and they're bought in, then I mean, as much as we're supposed to be energy givers, we need them to give us energy. It's not easy. When what you're doing, that scout until 3 a.m. on the Thursday, Saturday, that's not, for a different opponent. You need the kids to give you mutual energy when they're coming in dragging. I can't stand that. I try to lift them out of it, but you can't be like Eeyore, the old cartoon where one day you're great, one day you're, just mopey. So I think, when we have energetic staff members and student athletes, it helps me because I can reciprocate that. And, if they're not bringing, I'm going to try to get there, but you can't force them to bring that. And then I think that's the hardest part.
Wow, I love it. I like to end with this question just to see where you came from to now. Like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young self to prepare for, college coaching?
Be patient. Be patient. I mean, I'm out here, making headway, making contacts, and I think, I was so eager to be a head coach. I'm like, all right, I'm 24. I got to take this high school head job. No, you don't. You don't. You can as part of your path, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I think just patience. I think so many people are caught up in the networking to try to get what they want instead of just developing. I think you can develop as a high school coach, as an AAU coach, as Division 1, 2, 3. I mean, I think there's so many Division 3 assistant coaches that are tremendous. And I think they have the benefit. And I did at Marymount, is being able to recruit every day. You can go meet everybody. There's no limit, in terms of the number of people you can meet. There might be a limit in terms of number of hours you can work with players, but you can connect and meet people and grow and, find ways to get better at every spot. And I think just being patient where you're at, so you can get to the next spot, but you're prepared by being patient. If you're patient and getting better, you're going to be prepared. And I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I love what I do. I'm at a great spot. I'm comfortable. Coach Dan just got a nice long extension, and I'm just trying to be, I got to be, a patient assistant coach that just, focuses on the work instead of, chasing jobs. Because I think, if you do that, you can have continual success. And eventually I think, everybody's time comes if you do a good job, and you were talking about being a self-promoter. We all got to do it a little bit, but I don't think that really helps people prepare for the job. It could help you get there, but you still got to be able to do the job once you get there. And I think patience is a good thing for young coaches.
I think that's the number one thing. I'm glad you made that statement, making sure that patience. I think that's, if young kids understand that, they will be so successful in this business. Well, look, Matt, man, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Like, if there's anything you want to leave with the viewers before we go?
No, but I did come up with 5 or 10 other stories for the, which you told me before. I would have taken notes. I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun. And I appreciate you making me feel at ease and being who let me be who I am. And I think this is great. You're doing it. Obviously you're very connected, a lot of experience, and a ton of people. And I feel honored that you thought of me to come on today with all the people that you do know.
Well, you're welcome, man. And I, like I said, I expect big things, not only from the Mount, but you, and I know Dan, you know, for years as well. But I expect big things, and like I know you'll be running your own program one day as well. So I'm happy. Like I said, I'm glad that you definitely could get on. And I want to thank you viewers for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time, and stay safe.